Well, hello and welcome to Bowtie Life, where we talk mostly about life in the garden. I'm Bowtie David, and we live here in Destin, Florida, Zone 9B now with the new updates. Today, we are going to be trimming some grapevines that have got out of control. No, they've just had a year's worth of growth, and they need to be tended to. We're also going to do, if you've been watching, you know what the grand experiment will be with the grapevine. We're doing something big with it. So in near future videos, we are coming up with our February garden tours. In fact, by the time this comes out, hopefully they will all have been recorded, and maybe the first part will have been edited and scheduled for release right after this. So maybe 2 or 3 days after this video comes out, we might get the first part of the February garden tour, which is the front and side gardens. Be sure to subscribe to Bowtie Life on YouTube so that you don't miss anything that happens out here. We do keep a very careful log of everything that happens in the garden to see the progress, to see what works, see what doesn't work, because some things don't work, simply put. And I kind of play around with stuff out here, and sometimes it just simply doesn't work, and I know that. So for those of you who have subscribed, I want to say thank you so much. You are my heroes. You have made Bowtie Life what it is today, and just thank you for coming back and watching again. Let's get on with it. Hi, I'm Bowtie Dave. So first things first, let's talk about trimming these vines, and we'll talk about it and what we're going to be doing here, and then we're going to get right into doing it and looking at some examples. Top of the order of business here, though, is to give props to Scott Head. He's one of the channels I watch regularly, and I've watched 3 of his videos on pruning grapevines repeatedly. And he and I have even discussed over the conversations in there. In fact, you can see in the comments on those videos. But if you search YouTube for pruning grapevines Scott Head, you will see there's 3 videos that he put out, and get pretty good idea of how to do this. And this is going to just be my rendition of that, because these are my grapevines. Now, my grapevines are not ideal. His are beautiful, of course. This arch trellis is not the best way to do it. If you want to go out and have great production, I don't think this is the best way to do it. I did it this way because it's my garden and I want to do it this way. So make your decisions based on that. Don't put too much weight on my unprofessional methods here. I do play around with things. I have a tendency to kind of be lazy and do things just a certain way that may not be the accepted norm. So yeah, we're going to get in here and look, and there's actually 9 grapevines on these 2 arbors, 100 inches of arch. Now that arch does go up right about 8 feet, so it's a nice big arch. All the vines are on the right side of this arch trellis. The tops go over and to the left, which means they go toward the house. They grow into the house. They grow into the siding. I have to keep them out. They don't get quite as much sun over on that side because they get into the shade of the house, though our shadows are very small in the dead of the summer. So this whole thing gets sun all during those hottest months of the summer. So 9 vines on here, that is too many. I know that for a fact. That is way too many to have on this one arbor. I am going to be thinning it back some. Of those 9, I would like to have maybe 4 left. That would be nice. If it ended up being 3, I'm not going to complain about that one bit. We are going to be trimming these to help them grow a little better, and they will cover this. Now, most of the growth that you see here happened this past year. I actually put these in the ground in the end of 22, or middle of 22, I think it was. They did pretty good. They grew quite a bit, not all this, but in 2023, most of this growth is 2023 because I didn't do any trimming in the winter of 22-23. So this will be the first time these things are trimmed. And so I'm a little excited to get in here and get some of this nest of vines thinned out, because it is just a rat's nest of vines. I've always wanted to have this feeling of the arches. I love having the arches. In fact, behind the camera here is the pea, bean, and tomato trellis here in the front yard. So if you've watched any of the garden tours, you know what I'm talking about. We also recently had a video where we planted out some garlic, and then another video where we planted out the snap peas. So, and then of course all the arches in the back. I just like that feeling. I like taking advantage of the vertical growing, and it's just what I want in my garden. You don't have to do that. It's just what I want, and that's all. That's the only validity there is to me doing this. So, the other grand experiment that we're going to be doing here. So I told you the vines are growing toward the house. They get in the siding. Occasionally I'd have to go pull them out of the siding. In fact, at the beginning of the year, I had to pull several out because I hadn't been watching that particular end over there on the left side. So when I placed this, there were actually citrus trees over here, and there's still kind of a dying grapefruit tree here that I don't have a lot of hope for. There's also two completely dead orange trees over here that, yes, they were not cared for properly because I didn't know what to do. So hopefully I know better now. But I didn't have the space in here, so I kind of pushed it closer to the house. Well, now that those trees are dead and I'm going to be redesigning areas over here, I kind of wish that this arch was over here instead of over there. So my idea is, after we get this trimmed, I want to try to, we'll leave this side here on the metal arch, on the cattle panels. I want to pull up the stakes on the other side, flip the whole arch over, re-bend the archway the other way so that it's flipped over here instead of over there. Now, I don't think that's going to mess up any of the grapevines. They're going to figure out which way the sun's coming from. They're going to start growing their leaves. In fact, they're going to wake up from their dormant state thinking, oh, okay, there's the sun, let's go. They're not even going to know that they've been flipped over. So you can see it's completely dormant right now, and it has no idea. It's sleeping, it has no idea what's happening. So that's going to be the grand experiment, and you can kind of watch the garden tours, because I will be talking about that in future garden tours. First trimming, and then we've had some really bad rain today, but it's over with now, I hope. But I don't think I'm going to get more than just the trimming done today, because we are already in mid to late afternoon, and the day is going to be waning away here pretty soon, and we will have to pick this up tomorrow afternoon, which will be Sunday, January 28th. Today's the 27th. But getting to the trimming of the vines, let's get in here and take a closer look at what we have down at the bottom. So starting here at the front, we have the wooden entrance archway, which was in our youngest son's wedding, and we have the first vine here, which is actually, I did this on purpose. I put the largest one when I dug these up at a friend's house who has an orchard. I put the largest one right here at the front, and this is definitely one that I'm keeping. It comes up here, and you'll notice there's a bit of a split right here. I'm debating whether I should keep this split or if I should come up and keep this split, and I'm really leaning towards keeping this split. Now, the way this is, a lot of times they will grow these in orchards. They come up to a certain height and then go two different directions on some cabling. And that's kind of the idea right about at this height, about shoulder level to me. but then it goes up and it starts splitting off in a bunch of different directions. So this one right here, I'm suspecting I'll end up keeping this split at shoulder level and going from there. Now that's a lot of mess in there. Most of this other mess is gonna get cleared out because we got a whole bunch of other vines. And if I come back down here to the bottom, you'll notice there's a smaller one here. And then there's this one, which is actually part of that larger vine right there. And it actually connects down here underground. And I think that may have been that way when I originally dug this up. A friend of mine has a grape orchard. He said I could come get some pups. That's what I did. I got 9 of them, put them in here. Every one of them tuck, every single one of them. But now you'll notice we have that nice looking one, and right next to it we have another nice looking one. And so these two are the ones I'm debating. Which one should I keep? I really like the look of this one on the left better. The one on the right gets a little weird down here, and I'm not sure if it'll do good. If I keep this one here on the left, I'll be cutting everything off down here, including this piece, which goes up the front of the arch trellis next to my first big one. So if I keep this one and take out that one, we come, here's another one down here, there's another one. Okay, now this one here is kind of interesting. That branch comes across here, forks, and then the one fork goes this way, the other fork goes across here and then back. I don't know how that happened. It looks kind of like it folded over, or maybe it just grew that way. But this little knot right here, it may have just budded out the other way. I'm not sure. I like the way that goes, which is really one of the reasons I'm coming down to the point here where I'm thinking, okay, maybe this one just needs to come out. It's forking down here really low. They're kind of small, not quite as big as that other one I'm considering keeping. This one right here is going to be the one that makes it either whether I keep 3 or 4 of these. The last one I'm going to definitely keep is this one. However, it's got some funky growing going on here. I may keep this one. I'm definitely taking off probably this one right here, and we'll talk about why I think. Though, Scott Head, if you are watching this, I'd love to hear your input. So feel free to comment and tell me what I've done wrong, because I ain't never done this before. So we're going to keep these cordons. We're going to keep certain cordons, but we're going to clear out a lot of this mess. And ultimately what I would like to have is just a few main cordons going over this archway, which we're going to then, of course, flip over, because right now we're on the outside on the north here, but we're going to be taking that side against the house and just flipping the whole archway over somehow. Oh Lordy, be with us. We'll have to see if this works. I'm a little worried about how it's going to go, but we'll have to just step through this. So I spent a lot of time thinning this down and being careful, trying to be careful, finding my main cordons, which is a bit of a mess, I'll admit. Thinning out some of these strands in the vines, though, of course, gets a little tricky, and yanking them out, but I'm basically working my way up the main cordons, mainly that, starting with that front one up there, and then the second one, third one, and fourth one. Yep, it looks like I'm going to have a fourth one in here. So I did opt for keeping 4 of these, and they kind of snake their way up and around, but let's look at that in just a minute here. You will see, of course, here got a lot of stuff pulled out already, and the vines are looking a lot thinner than they were. In fact, you can look in the middle here, you can see that you can pretty much walk through now pretty clearly. Certainly the first half of this is clear, but let's look at this first cordon here. This first vine comes out of the ground, and I've trimmed it. Oh, there's one right there. I have trimmed it up pretty clean. I've got one right here that I can't quite get in. Oh yeah, I can if I get my hand in there. There we go. So I've got it pretty trimmed clean up into right about, I don't want that one either. This one here, it's about stomach level for me. And then right above that, about a foot, is where that main branch at shoulder level is. So at this point, I'm going to try to cultivate 2 cordons. And on these cordons, you'll notice that I've left a little bit of branch here. And now this is the funny thing. I love it when people are honest enough that they can show their mistakes and live by them. You know, when Scott had started this, he said, I'm keeping three of these little nodes. There's a little node there. There's a little node right there where a branch is going to grow next year. I think that's a node. Anyway, he said the first time he left 3 nodes. Second time he was leaving 2. By the third video, he was leaving 1 node, and that's it. And I don't know, I'm not sure about that right there, but I do know that this is a node that's going to grow a branch next year. So I cut it just above that node. And we come up a little bit further. Let's go over here in this other branch. We come up a little further here. We see there's a branch and there's a node. Now this is, I don't know what that was. Okay. And here's another one, little branch. Now, as far as the distance between these branches, he said the width of your hand, and that's just a little bit narrower than the width of my hand. Is about 3/4 of it. So I'm actually going to cut this one off right here. And then we come up here to the next one and we see we have one here. There's a node somewhere right in there, I think. If I feel there's actually a node right there. So I'm going to cut it right above that node, right about there. And that branch gets cut off. This will grow a new branch right there. Here's another one. Well, that's actually really close to this one here. So I'm just going to come back and cut that off. And so about the width of your hand between nodes, now it's a little wider now, but that's okay. This thing's going to grow like crazy. So about the width of my hand, there's another one back behind here. See that right there? I've already cut that one to 1 node. Actually, I think there's 2 nodes there. Okay, I'm going to do a Scott head, and now that's growing inside. I don't want all that growing inside, so I'm just going to go ahead and give that a cut right there, leave 1 node. Now this is something else to keep an eye out for. This was where another vine was crossing, and it made a little notch here. It started to choke it, and you don't want that to happen. That is not a good thing. So you want to take these extra little tendrils off so they don't choke your vines, and that's going to be healthier for that. In the long run, it'll heal from that. Again, another one. Just one node there. Same thing up here. Now there's a tendril right here, getting up here to the top, that I'm going to take off. Make sure to get off so it doesn't choke out this node right here. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to follow a single cordon up to a certain point where the split is. I'm doing the same thing over to this cordon. Single node, single node, single node, single node, growth nodes, where it's going to start sprouting for next year. And it is getting late. The sun has actually set, and I'm going to add to the pile a little bit longer, but this is already so much thinner. And I'm just very carefully working my way through these branches and pulling one at a time. Like, see, this is one I've cut off. I can work on getting this one out next. Just untangle it. It's a game of pickup sticks, folks. That's all it is. And so there we go. It looks a lot cleaner. I'm very pleased. You can see that everywhere I cut, I left an extra growth node. There's a whole bunch of growing points here for the next year. These main cordons are going to get nice and big and going to grow significantly this year. And I've got everything cleaned up. I got 4 vines that all go down to, each one goes down to 2, so there's a total of 8 vines coming out of this thing. Got a massive pile of leaves. Not leaves, these are vines out of this arbor. And we are looking at a clean grapevine trellis, and I am so excited. I've been dreading this for a very, very long time, and I didn't put it off too much, thankfully, but it's time for the next phase of this video. And you'll notice I do have a bow tie today. Not sure what happened yesterday. I had a bow tie on and I took it off for some reason. Not sure why. Very strange. Second time I've done that recently. Anyway, so yeah, obviously it's a windy day out here. I'm trying to speak up to make sure you can hear my voice. But you'll notice over here to the left, I have some additional stuff over here. I have disconnected the trellis from the posts, and I've also put a couple of boards up, a couple of sheets of plywood up against the house that I had laying around because, well, I don't want this video to become the star of the next Fail Army show. So I decided I should protect the house a little bit. There is a window over there on the other side of that second board that I really don't want to shatter, mainly because it's very hard to get replacement glass for that style window anymore, especially here in Destin, where everything has to have hurricane-proof stuff. So yeah. Anyway, my idea is the same here. I'm going to go get some straps. I'm going to try to pull the top of this over and bend everything the other way and try to move this trellis over by 4 feet with just a flip. Let's see how this goes, and prepare to laugh. So one of my biggest concerns here is that both the panels stay together. I'm going to try to flip them both in unison, and I've tied a yellow rope to hold them together. Now there are 2 wires holding them together at eye level and about knee level on that side, but I've also added some yellow rope to give it additional staying power to stay together, and hopefully one of them doesn't escape me. So I've had the brilliant idea of using these straps and pulling it over with these straps if possible, and see if I can make this thing behave the way I want it to. Let's see what happens as I get ready to pull these straps. So it was at this point that I was most scared of that trellis coming around and smacking me in the bald head. You know, I don't have any hair to protect me because I'm an old guy. But you know, here on the 3rd attempt, it finally flipped over, and I realized real quick that this cattle panel is really strong and is very, very hard to bend the other way. In fact, the way I bent this to begin with, I had it on the ground and I put my foot on it and you know, pulled up the end. And this is just ridiculously difficult and very heavy to do. So I started to get the idea of using the board like this so that I could get maybe some leverage and lift it up. And also, I'm going to start talking through part of this, and if you want to fast forward through the clowniness of all this, feel free to skim forward into about the 48-minute mark, and you will see the final product at I think it's about around a little bit after 48-minute mark in this video. But so yeah, you can see how hard it is to lift this thing. And I got the brilliant idea. I have these boards are actually from a bed frame that we brought back from Arkansas, and I thought, oh, this notch is perfect for this, and so I started putting several pieces in, and I wanted to get it to where I could get it, you know, a nice 8-foot arch, the whole length of this 100-inch trellis, which is just over 8 feet. And so you can see here, I'm starting to get it under control. At least it was still, my heart was still racing. But as soon as I got this down, and you can see here, as soon as I could get something bent right there where my hands are, it started to to change. But the key thing was getting that other end on the ground. So even though here in a couple minutes, it's very sketchy still, to say the least, it gave me a lot of reassurance. And so, yeah, and I kept putting these boards back up to get more leverage. Right, you can see where it was bent, right where those boards are. And I was trying to bend it down at the same point, just the other way. And here you can see for the first time, I'm starting to get it down. I'm feeling good about it. Feel like we're going to get somewhere. Now, I am a handyman. So as a handyman, you know, if you're a contractor and you always do plumbing, you got every situation figured out. If you always do electrical, you got every situation figured out. Handyman is more of a more of a general do whatever comes up, and you end up having to think outside the box, and that's truly what this is. Getting this thing bent down to this point right here where it's actually touching the ground about where it needs to be. That was the hardest thing I had to figure out, and what I going to figure out here in a little bit, and I'll point it out, is that I can't bend the whole thing at once. I need to focus on little bits at a time. Now, that hard bend over there on top of those posts on the right, that's not where the bend is supposed to be. That's the bend from when I pulled it over with the strap. But I'm starting to try to work just 1, 2, or 3 bars of this cattle panel, a few at a time. And this right here, you start seeing, I'm able to start getting that bent around the other way when I start focusing my power on just particular locations. And of course, those U-posts on the right are just giving way, and it's wearing me out. I'm tired by now. I'd already done all the grapevine trimming. I'd recorded the video on collecting pepper seeds earlier, and it was starting to wear on me by this point. But I wanted to get not a, you know, I used to have an arch with 3 bends in it, and it kind of made a ridge on each side and across the top. And it was, I mean, it was okay, but I would rather, I started doing some of the other ones and other arches in the garden, and figured out how to get a nice rounded arch. And that was my goal here, is to get that rounded arch. And so anyway, here you can see I'm figuring out where the 4-foot mark is, and I push this in and realize real quick, you know what, I need to just go get some marker flags and measure where these 3 posts are going to go. And so you can see down there is actually a marker flag right there next to the stool, and there's a marker flag where that post is. Now I have tinnitus really bad, and so the banging of those that post driver really hurts my tinnitus, and so I wear that headset all the time. It doesn't have any electrical features anymore, but it is a good noise dampener. Pulling out these posts, pretty easy. We have sand here, so when they go in, it's in sand. Now I do have a lot of, and in fact, right where I just pulled that last post from on the right side over there, our water line, our city water line actually goes in somewhere over there. So I was being very careful the day I put in those posts, and then the day I put in the footings for that trellis, not the trellis, the archway there. It's the entrance to this thing. We'll be moving that here shortly, so stick around. There are cement footings at the base of that wooden archway, and so we'll ultimately end this project with moving that over, pulling out the footings, and you'll see how big they are. They're not huge. They're only, I don't know, between maybe 14 and 18 inches, somewhere in there, and it's just a 10-inch quickcrete cement tube is all it is. But yeah, so right along here, I'm beginning to see, okay, hey, I've got an arch going up there. And I was trying to figure out, well, right now I'm trying to figure out how to get this middle section in far enough to get to that orange flag. And it turns out to be pretty easy. You'll see here in just a minute. I just pushed it all in, muscled it in. But anyway, so again, last post, you can see how easy it is to pull. This is not clay, folks. This is pure sand, and we have special sand. I lived in South Texas near the beach, and the sand down there was very different than the sand here. And it drained extremely well. Yeah, it was very different. So you'll see here, that just pushed in, no problem at all. Boom, there it was. So that seemed to work pretty easily once I got that board in there, making sure my flag is standing up straight. If you want to drive a lot of posts and you don't have one of these, you can get them at any big box store. It's got a big old metal hunk in the top of this tube, and it's a pretty heavy, it's really heavy. Challenge with these type of posts when you're driving it though is catching those little hooks on the side of it. So you have to figure out how to hold it so it doesn't catch the one side with all the little hooks on it. It's a little bit annoying, and inevitably you're gonna mess up some of those hooks. But I just drive this thing far enough for the little fins on the bottom of this post, and I just drive it far enough for those fins to get in the ground so it won't twist. But it's pretty straightforward. And of course I'm doing a little bit of celebration here because I was done. You can see how done I was. That thing bit me back. So yeah, taking off the straps. These little 1.25 inch straps are actually pretty useful for all kinds of stuff, not only for tying down loads on the top of your vehicle or on a trailer, but they can be used to pull things together. And so here I'm working on some of these wires a few at a time, and this is where I really begin to see, hey, I might be able to do this just a little bit at a time, but I needed to get some more headway than I was making here. Right there where I've got my right hand at, that is not an original bend. That was a bend that I made trying to get things flipped over. It was not a good bend. It kind of messed me all up. So here I am. I'm going to start using the strap, and I didn't just hook this strap on, because if you hook it on and it snaps off there, it's going to catch you in the forehead or something. You don't want that. So I make sure to hook it in where I could, which, do as I say, not as I do, because I did the opposite on the other side here. But you'll see the magic of these ratchet straps in just a moment, because they, now I do have some twists in that strap on the left side. You can see it twists around about 1.5 twists. But you see how it's pulling it together here? This is the point at which it started to take shape, and I was very excited at this point because you can see that archway at the top, and now it's manageable to pull by hand. And I get the second strap on here, same thing. There's a root right there. Actually, it's one of the vines I cut off, and it grew up and looped back down to and rooted again, so it makes this foothold that keeps tripping me. You'll see me trip on that several times. It was very distracting. But you can see that curve on the left side is starting to take shape. I was a little more careful with this strap. That first strap I got twisted, and it kind of wrapped around the little ratchet all wonky, like it got messed up. If you keep these things straight when you're doing stuff like that, it ratchets better. Now, here's a helpful tip. If you're using these to tie down a load on your car, if you put a 1.5 twists in it You know, as you're driving down the highway, you'll hear these things hum. It catches the wind, flaps back and forth, makes a humming sound. Well, if you put a twist and a half in your straps, not only will they not hum, but they will also not wear out as fast. These things will last you a lifetime because it's not doing all that vibrating and wearing itself into two pieces. So yeah, you can really see now it's starting to take shape. That little spot right there is really a hard spot to get around correctly. But you can see right there, that was like the turning point right there. I knew at that point I could work this out. I probably should have ratcheted it in even more, but I'll be honest, I was getting so tired at this point. But you can see that curve just starting to take shape. I was very pleased with that. Now if you have a good handyman in your life and he starts doing genius things like this, you should be sure to tell them good job, because good handymen thrive on praise. This is Bowtie sitting over there giving...
Good job, Bowtie!
I'm sitting here at my desk doing the voiceover here, so yeah, you can see here I'm hooking in that ratchet strap for another grab at it so we can get this back end done. Now I am still planning to hook 2 more panels onto the back of this and extend it. I do want to put some different grapevines on the back 2 panels though, because well, I mentioned Scott Head a couple times already. He's got some good varieties that will provide some different you know, some table eating grapes, and I don't know, maybe some wine making. You think we'd make wine, Mrs. Bowtie? Maybe. That's so far down in the future that we're not even thinking about that right now. But here you can see that arch is really starting to shape up. I just had to start working strand by strand here. This cattle panel, it is a galvanized metal. When you get a rebar, it's not galvanized, it is just steel. This stuff is galvanized, it does not rust. I've seen people who have had these cattle panels for decades in their garden and they still don't have any rust on them. Go look at Roots and Refuge and see some of their cattle panels that they've had for eons. Actually, a lot of their cattle panels are at Whispering Willow because they sold their old place to Jill and Nathan over at Whispering Willow. But they have a lot of their old cattle panels, and they look as new as these. These 2 are 2 years old, and you can see there's still not a bit of rust on them because they're galvanized. They are very heavy metal though. These panels are 16 foot long and 50 inches wide. So that's 4 foot 2 inches wide. They make great trellises like this, arch trellises. If you put them on their side, they do good that way as well. At this point, I realized I needed to get that other side wired in so it didn't do that again, because I lost a little bit of my grab there. I've got some wires on the floor, on the ground here, but I needed to get this raised up. You know, we lowered, in the couple videos ago, we lowered the that arch trellis in the background you can see over there. That's where the beans and tomatoes were, and we just planted peas. But trying not to make the same mistake, giving these about 4 inches, because who knows, I might decide to plant some seeds on this side over here and do something different on this side of this trellis. There's no bed there right now, but that's an easy thing to fix. These channel lock pliers are real useful for bending these wires around. One thing I did learn though, you don't have to bend it around 12 times. That's what I had done on the other side, and getting a couple of these wires off was quite the task, to say the least. So here pretty soon I'll start making some progress. And once again, back to bending these things into shape. This metal is really thick, and it takes everything in me. And of course, when I flipped it over, I realized I had a extra vine here I had broken off the tip of. Well, as it turned out, I cut this off later in the day, because it was an extra one. But it's still plenty of growing points for the vines for next year, and these vines will be here and be in the shapes they are for a very long time, because each year they'll just get stronger and stronger. You can tell I'm starting to flag a bit. Okay, so on to the footings. Now these are 10-inch round footings put in the ground. You can see that one back there behind me is the longer one. I think it's about 16 to 18 inches. But you can see I got the sharpshooter shovel, and you get it down on the side, lift it out, and they come out real easy when you need to, but they're heavy enough that they're going to hold this wooden archway in place when need be. Here I'm just kind of making a circle to mark where it needs to go in. I'll use a post hole digger here in just a minute. There it is. And making this hole deep enough. You can see that white, you can see how white the sand is here. This is, folks, we're on feet, many feet of just pure sand. And it's very easy to dig here. In fact, the sand is so cool because you don't have to use cement, because when you put a 4x4 post in the ground, 10, 15 years later, that post will look brand new because the drainage is so good, it doesn't rot. The thing that makes them rot around here is by putting a cement footing down, and the cement actually will hold water not circulating around the post, and that's what rots it right at the top of the cement. I pull a lot of these things out, and they always break off. Not always, but 99% of the time. They break off right at the top of the cement footing that some good-willed person put in, and it doesn't make sense around here. This sand drains so well. I've never seen sand that drained as well as this stuff. So it was a little bit low, so I packed a little more sand in there. And of course we get these things about even. Here in about 2.5 minutes, you'll see I've got both of them set in. But you can see there is about 4 inches of good topsoil here, maybe 8 inches. No, 4 to 6 inches, which is about normal. As soon as I get through that, though, we start getting down into the into the white sand, which is right about now. Suddenly it becomes a lot easier to dig. So this is the post hole diggers that I use to put in posts without cement. If you're putting in posts without cement, one of the things you really have to do is you have to sink those posts deeper. So when I'm putting in a 6-foot wooden picket fence, I will use 8 or 10 foot posts. Actually 10-foot posts is my preference, and I will sink them between 3 and 4 feet deep in the sand. It's deep enough that they're not going to work their way out, but it gives you enough sturdiness that they will be plenty strong. As it turned out, this post was about a 1/4 inch high. The footing, I mean, was about a 1/4 inch high, but I wasn't going to worry about it. It was close enough for government work. And I don't work for the government, so it doesn't really matter. You can see it wobbling a little bit there. But it's coming closer. Very happy. So the sand I'm putting around here, I didn't use all of it. I just put around so that as the rain falls or the irrigation goes, it'll start washing this sand into that hole, packing it in on its own. And that will sink down, and then I'll take some more of the sand and pile it up, filling the previous holes there with some of the topsoil. That's where I'm throwing that stuff. But yeah, I left some over there because it's going to make holes. It'll leave some holes, and it'll wash down into it'll leave some gaps, I should say. It'll wash down.
So they got a little sketchy there for a little bit. But I think it worked. I got the whole thing flipped over, a little bit of manipulation and adjustments, and I moved it 4 feet, which is exactly what I wanted to do. This wall is leaning ever so slightly out, but by the time grapevines start growing on it, now remember this side here, this is the sunny side. It's going to grow thick on this side, so this thing should look beautiful. Very excited. And got the arch, the wooden arbor arch moved as well, and over the next few weeks it will settle that sand down on the far side. The 2 footings that I had to move, they will get settled in and solidify up. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Anybody wants any loquat trees, I got a bunch of them here. Only challenge now, I just need to clean out the debris. And wow, that's a massive job out of the way. I am very excited about that. So kind of comes into the middle of the side yard, separates 2 sides here. We'll have to see how that works for this year. See if we need to do anything different, but I think it's everything I was hoping for. So thank you for following along with me today. Those of you who have subscribed to Bowtie Life on YouTube, you are my heroes. You have helped make the channel what it is today. We are working hard to grow our channel to the next level. Some of you know what that means. And of course,
we'll be able to do so much more once we get there. For those just finding us, the channel Bowtie Life on YouTube, for the first time, this is kind of my own personal journal of everything that's going on in the garden. Today is January 28th, 2024. I'll look back on this one day to remind myself that I've completed this job today. With my ADD brain, I've tried journaling, I've tried photography and other things, and these videos just really speak to me, and I do very well with them. I get reminded of the things I need to be reminded of, and things go very well for my brain. So they kind of spark my brain the way it needs to. So be sure to subscribe to Bowtie Life on YouTube so you don't miss a thing. So you will be seeing this in the monthly garden tours and updates on this as the grapevines grow, and you'll see how it looks. Very excited. I just can't get over having this project done, out of the way for the season. Of course, it's the next morning, and I got to record the finish of this so I can get it rendering. But yeah, another way you can help, and it's a free thing you can do. Another way that is a lot of help to growing the channel is clicking that thumbs up on this video and sharing this video on your social media with friends who might be interested in how to prune your grapevines each year. So I'm trying this. This is my first time to do it, and I feel like I have some good information, and looking forward to seeing how it goes next year. It's a beautiful morning today. I think we're supposed to get into the 60s, and looking forward to a very similar day every week this week. Have a blessed day.